So to get a handle on what's going on in this market, I think the best thing to do is to look at the various groups, the key groups in this market currently, and see what's up, because I think that tells the real story. On an index basis, as I pointed out, you have a low here, an oversold low that could rally at any point. Whether it does or not is another question, and which stocks rally with it is also another question that's open to interpretation, and also just seeing what takes off, what works, what sets up, and what doesn't. So for those of you who are new around here, I would suggest if you go to the main Owl Trader Owl Market feed page and you type in the search field here, my process. Whoops, not my Orices. What's that? My process here, you will come up with this post right here, which is my process. And this is where I discuss in a video how I approach the market in terms of monitoring stocks, screening for stocks, and creating lists of stocks that I then use as my universes of stocks from which to select long or short candidates. So if you're new, I would suggest taking a look at that. Those of you who've been around for a while know what my deal is here. I basically I'm a list junkie. I keep lists of everything. And I create lists of stocks that are either in thematic groups or industry groups, whatever. And I monitor them daily. Intraday, I run through the charts. At the end of the day, I run through the charts. And maybe once more before I go to bed, I run through the charts. Yes, I am a chart junkie. If charts were porn, I guess, I would be a porn addict of sorts. I'm a chart porn addict. Anyways, before I get too far off track, let's look at the big stock NASDAQ names. So this is a list I keep of the big stock NASDAQ names. There are 12 of them. Apple, of course, is one of them. And what you'll notice today is that the stock continued selling off and volume was heavy. So nothing doing there. I was watching this all day to see if we would get an undercut and rally through this low, but it did not happen, which is interesting. You have Amazon attempting an undercut and rally at the 200-day line. Let me blow this up. But as you can see here, it closed just below the line. So no luck there. Apple again. Let's see. Booking Holdings. Little shakeout at the 200-day line. Is that a moving average undercut and rally move that's going to take the stock significantly higher? I don't know. But it's fairly oversold, as you can see from the oversold bingo bar. But when I look at this indicator, that's the gray bar here. It's an oversold bingo bar. It was devised by Ian Woodward, who passed away a few years back. Good friend of mine. And it tells you when a stock is getting oversold. I like to see at least 3 substantial bars or 3 groupings of, say, thinner bars. You only have 1. Okay. Cisco. Well, trading like a short today and heading lower again. Intel, a short at the 50-day line. Meta Platforms, a short at the 10-day line. Notice how it's stalled. Microsoft really cannot get going. You've got this major low over here at 385.58. Okay, today we closed at 383.27, so it can't even get back above that. And it's just kind of languishing down there. Could it? I suppose it could at some point, but it certainly didn't want to do it today. So you can see a lot of these names are not bottoming and trying to turn, at least with any sort of decisive thrust. You see Netflix edging up back towards the 10-day line, the 50-day line. And if that continues and it's a weak rally, it could merely present another short sell entry opportunity. So NVIDIA finally pulled off the undercut and rally through this left side peak at 113.01, close at 115.74. As I said, I don't know, last week, I think, if I was just going to play any tech in this market off the lows, I would be looking at NVIDIA primarily. And that's because it's a very favorite name of everybody and well-known. Everybody loves it. And whenever it comes down, everybody has been telling everyone, at least everybody on cable TV has been telling everyone to buy this thing all the way down to no avail. But maybe now it's ready to turn, at least for a trade. Maybe it goes up to the 200-day line. If the general market is able to sustain any kind of a reaction rally from here. So let's go to Oracle here. Nothing really happening, just rallying back up to the 200-day line. Tesla, same thing there. No real setups in here. And if we go over to, from here I'm going to go to my big stock cloud list, which has 18 cloud names that I think are some of the bigger names. You could add a bunch more, I know, because my other list, actually if you go to my cloud list here, I've got 49 names on it, but in order to keep it manageable, I keep an eye on the biggest ones in the group. So you have Adobe looking like a short at the 10, the 20, and the 50 today. You have Autodesk really going nowhere. You have AppLovin, a short at the 10-day line. Bill Holdings really going nowhere. Salesforce, a weak rally into 10-day moving average resistance. The 200-day line is right above. CrowdStrike did get back above the 200-day line. If you want to treat that as a moving average undercut and rally, I suppose you can. Use the 200-day line as your selling guide. If it reverses back below the line, then it becomes a short. Again, Datadog going nowhere. DocuSign really going nowhere. Dynatrace going nowhere. Cloudflare going nowhere. ServiceNow edging up towards the 10-day line, but nothing really that's going to knock your socks off. Okta is a little more interesting here. You have a big move. That would have been last week, early in the week. I think that was after earnings. Gap up, a Bible gap up move here. And that held up, went up for 2 days, and then you started to correct with the market here. Coming into the 10-day line as volume dries up. So this may try to flag, and volume will dry up. So this one is kind of interesting. Oracle, Palantir, just a weak rally into the 10-day line. No real pocket pivot or anything. But it is in a position where it could retake the 50-day line. And since it's such a popular stock, now you have to think in those terms. You know, don't go chasing after some of the garbage names. I know somebody was trying to buy Shopify, and they got stopped out a couple of times. But I don't know if that's really a key name to focus on. So think about what you're going to go after. Like I said, if I'm going to go after any tech, I like NVIDIA, okay? And in fact, it posted a price undercut and rally today at that 113.01 low, right? So here's Palantir, and you know this is another popular one. If it gets above the 50-day line, maybe it becomes a buy there. Now, the thing is, you can buy it coming above the 50-day line because you then use the 50-day line as a selling guide, because if it fails, then it could become a short sale entry at that point. Shopify, here's someone looking at this one, and there's really nothing going on here. I don't know, you're trying to pull off an undercut and rally through this low here, but never really quite made it. And I wouldn't consider that one of the better names, just like Snowflake trying to do the same thing, and it did not make it today either on an undercut and rally attempt. Workday is short at the 200-day line. Zscaler coming into the 50-day line. I don't know if that's a short or a long, hard to say. So you can see that, at least among the big stock NASDAQ names and the big stock clouds, at least as I define them, you don't really see that much that's exciting here. I think NVIDIA, the only real U&R I might test. If we move over to the semiconductor big stocks, this will include NVIDIA too. Analog, that's really going nowhere but down, and Applied Materials stalling, looking like it wants to break lower. AMD, just a weak rally up into the 10-day line, nothing exciting there. Arista Networks, nothing there. ARM Holdings, closing near the lows, nothing there. Broadcom, a short near the 20-day line. CrowdStrike, we looked at this one, possible moving average undercut and rally at the 200-day line. CyberArk stalled at the 10-day line, it was a short there. Intel, I showed you that one already, a short at the 50. KLA couldn't even get up to the 10-day line. Lam Research got to the 10-day line, stalled near the 20 and the 50. Maybe that becomes a short in there. Marvell, it's flat on its back, and it really isn't getting up. Meta Platforms, again, is short at the 10-day line. Microchip just going lower. Micron, that's an interesting move, but it kind of extended at this point. I really won't want to be buying it. Probably, if this were to reverse at the 50-day line, it would become a short. At this point, though, if you really think this is going higher, and the market is going higher as well, then theoretically it could be bought here if you use a 50-day line, or if you want to give it more room, down to the 20-day line here as your selling guide, okay? So that's one way to handle it. But you're going to notice there's really not a lot that looks exciting here, and there are actually more stocks today that set up as shorts among these tech names. That includes the big stock NASDAQ, the big stock clouds, and this semiconductor big stocks, or big stock semiconductors plus list that I have. That includes things like Arista Networks, Meta Platforms, and I think CrowdStrike and CyberArk. So anyways, NXP going lower, Qorvo going lower, Qualcomm going lower, Seagate reversing and going lower, Skyworks going lower, testing the 10-day line, Supermicro looking like it's running out of gas, Taiwan Semi a little weak rally into the 10-day line, Texas Instruments going lower. Couldn't even pull off an undercut and rally move along these lows in here from February. So see how weak this stuff is? So this is giving you some very interesting information. We'll see how what this leads to in the coming days. Finally, we can go over to my telecom list. A10 Networks looking like a short at the 10-day line, but I would say it could go either way from here. So it's one of the better names. Applied Opto, move into the 10-day line. A lot of volume, but it didn't really go anywhere. Arista Network, same thing. Sienna, a little shakeout at the 200-day line. If you're feeling really lucky, you could treat this like a moving average undercut and rally at the 200-day line, which would then be your selling guide. But it's pretty far down there. They reported earnings, I think, yesterday morning. And so you got this kind of shakeout off the lows, but it didn't close above the 200-day line. So we'll see how that goes. Cisco just breaking lower. So not looking very good. Coherent, nothing there. Corning, really nothing there. Trying to pull off a moving average undercut and rally at the 200-day line, but you can see it's stalled badly. Doesn't really have that shakeout feel that I like to see. Credo, trying to shake out at the 200-day line. You could treat it as a moving average undercut and rally if you want to. The 200-day line becomes a selling guide, but good luck with that. Extreme, couldn't get anywhere. F5, can't get anywhere. And that's pretty much, harmonic light waves, Lumentum reversing at the 200-day line. There's nothing here, right? So NVIDIA may be the only tech that I like here as a possible long idea if the market's going to keep rallying. So now let's look at some areas of the market that have just been beaten to a pulp along with the tech. So one area of the market that's just been hammered lately are airlines. You can see American Airlines, that's just a waterfall cascading lower and seems to be a downside parabola. Alaska Air, same kind of situation. Delta, same thing. JetBlue, been coming down for a while. Southwest, trying to hang in there, but this looks more like a short to me. It was yesterday at the 50-day line. Mesa Air Group looking pretty bad. UAL, just like the other big major airlines, the American, Delta, and United all have this sort of inverse parabola going on. Autos have been heading lower. CarMax, Carvana short at the 200-day line today. Ford short at the 50-day line today. General Motors is short at the 200-day line today. You got Honda in there. You got Tesla, as I showed before, not really doing anything. If we look at other areas, you look at the data center power area. Nothing really happening here either. This one looks like a short eaten at the 20-day. But you just see all these patterns are just, the little bounces are really not doing anything. So there you go. And then finally we have, let's see, the financials have been getting kicked around. They're trying to stabilize a little bit today, but look at this, across the board. Some of these are way down there. I know somebody was trying to buy a moving average undercut and rally in Goldman Sachs today, but I don't think this is an area you want to be buying. It closed 0.07% below the 200-day line, so it failed. It did not pull off an undercut and rally. So even these beaten down financials cannot get off their backs. JP Morgan went tail down, or tail up rather, nose down into the 200-day line. Morgan Stanley stalled at the 200-day line. Wells Fargo bouncing off the 200-day line, so that's a little bit better, but still nothing really spectacular. If we look at the restaurant sector, which I think is economically sensitive, so it's telling you something about what the market thinks is going to happen with the economy, that these tariffs probably are going to create some havoc. And so you're seeing a lot of these, even BJ's Restaurants, which was looking strong a few weeks ago, coming apart. But just look, I'm just going to go through these, and you can see these patterns. Everything is to the downside, Denny's just getting brutalized. Krispy Kreme, Domino's Pizza, Darden Restaurants, Brinker International, Jack in the Box, El Pollo Loco, McDonald's tried to break out last Friday, and that failed. So it triggered a double top short in here. That would have been yesterday, and then a short at the 10-day line, and then today was a short at the 20-day line and went lower. So nothing here. I'll just go through these and finish it out, but you get the idea. This is mostly garbage. So it's one area that is getting beat up. Abercrombie & Fitch retail looks like garbage. Here's BJ's wholesale, maybe going to fail, but that's one that's been acting well. But one of the only one really out of this entire space. Chewy. Okay, so you get the idea. You've basically got everything getting beaten up, and it's not getting up off its back. So like I've been saying, I don't know if this market is going to turn or not, okay? But there's one area that I'm focusing on the long side, and today it worked out for me again. And you can guess what that is. It's the precious metals sector. So the foundation for the relative strength that we are seeing in the precious metal space is, of course, the action of gold and silver. So we see the GLD yesterday, a 5-day pocket pivot along the 10-day line. Today you held tight, an early, flattish to down move this morning was met with buying, and so here we are pushing up against the all-time highs. If we look at the SLV, yesterday's trend line breakout, which was a pocket pivot, you could have called it also a pocket pivot off the 10 and the 20 since the day before it closed at the 10 and the 20-day line. Today you continue higher. You ran into some resistance at this 30.27 left side peak, but after hours it's sitting here at 30.26 on the SLV. It might just go through it, so we'll see how this plays out. But my thinking is if the market does turn, this may be the best place to be. So we'll see how that plays out, but that's my theory. And if you look at some of these miners, as I've said, they look constructive. Some of them look like they're revving to break out or revving up to break out. Agnico Eagle, 2 pocket pivots in a row, near the highs. It continues to poke its head above the $100 century mark. So in my view, it's a century mark buy using the $100 level as a selling guide. Okay. Alamos Gold, moving higher, made a higher high today as indexes sit near their lows, and some stocks made lower lows in the tech sector. Anglo Gold Ashanti, a nice test of the 20-day line with volume 30.9% below average. I'm going to call that a voodoo pullback because it is a big stock, and that would suffice as light enough volume for a miner. B2 Gold moving back above the 20-day line, so a quick shakeout there. Eldorado Gold has been the comeback kid. I've been skeptical about this one because it's been pretty choppy, but if you can see here, you had a reversal at the 50-day line yesterday, but you found support at the 10-day line on a voodoo pullback. Volume is 38.8% below average to the 10-day line, so that looks constructive. Equinox Gold just hanging tight. Nice pullback to the 50-day line. That actually was a little mini undercut and rally as well. That was on Monday, and it quickly recovers. It's almost like they intentionally tried to shake everyone out of these names, and you had a big volume move yesterday back above the 10 and the 20. Goldfields hanging near the highs. Doesn't really want to budge. Barrick Gold, nice pullback into the 10-day line, holding above the 200-day line. That looks like it's revving up to go higher. Harmony Gold, hanging near the highs. IM Gold, pushing up through the 10-day line. Not really my favorite name, but acting okay. Kinross Gold, another one I like, hanging tight along the 10 and the 20. Volume declined to 20.8% below average. So is this one revving up to move higher? Possibly. McEwen Mining is starting to turn here. I thought this was interesting action today because I believe, let me see if I got this right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I believe this is a pocket pivot here, but this would be, today you had 816,403. You're at 706, 693, 677, 839. So you did exceed all of this downside volume in the pattern. I know it's hard to see there, but I was able to figure that out. So you get a pocket pivot here. Well, you get a pocket pivot yesterday at the 10-day line, and then another pocket pivot at the 10-day line coming up through the 20. How do you like that? Newmont, hanging tight. Looks like it wants to move higher. 5-day pocket pivot yesterday at the 50-day line. New Gold, NGD. Somebody was saying this is a quadruple top. Well, you really got 1, 2, 3, 4. This would be the 5th top. So it doesn't seem to want to die, but it doesn't seem to want to break out either. Maybe with all of this volume here, you see all the buying volume? It's very, very much a different pattern, even in here. A different pattern of accumulation than, say, we saw over here. Even more volume than we saw in this sharp move here, right? So this looks like it may try to break out. We'll see. If gold goes higher, obviously these are all going higher as well. SSR Mining, I talked about this yesterday. You had a moving average undercut and rally at the 20-day line. Today it just hung there at the open, even traded down just a pinch around the 10-day line before turning and going higher. It's a very nice flag formation. I also want to look at my industrial metals, because my theory is if we do turn here, you might do best with some of the commodities areas of the market. Alcoa, you got tariffs, an additional 25% tariff on aluminum, I guess, and so Alcoa is trying to turn. But notice how you're getting into undercut and rally land. We'll see whether this can play out. Camco, I don't care for the uraniums. You see the reversal at the 20-day line. Century Aluminum pulled off an undercut and rally through this low yesterday on a very crazy day and got above the 50-day line today on a pocket pivot volume signature. So technically a pocket pivot at the 10-day line coming up through the 20 and then the 50. Cleveland Cliffs, an undercut and rally through this low here. So you've got this low over here at 953. That's right here, okay? You got above it today, close at 979. In theory, that's a long entry using the 953 low as a selling guide. Freeport-McMoran, an undercut and rally through this low. So this low here is at 3602, close at 3678. You're within 2% of it, but you're stalling at the 20-day line. I want to see how these play out. I like this one better. Again, when I want to play the coppers, I use this, the COPX, the GX Global GX or Global X Copper Miners ETF. Hanging tight at the 50-day line as volume declined to 67.9% below average. What is that? It's a voodoo action at the 50-day line. So that may be viable right there using the 50-day line as your selling guide. If you want to give it a little more room, you can use the 10-day line, which is just below. Hudbay Minerals, okay, we talked about this one, I guess it was last week or over the weekend, and you have this low down here at 669, but you also have these lows here at 661 and 660, okay? You see where they are? You got one here, 660 and 660 and 661, 669. And then yesterday you pulled an undercut and rally through all of those lows. And so there you are. Okay, now you're trying to rally. So interesting, this was a comeback hit. If the group acts well, it may continue to move higher. MP Materials, a rare earth minerals name. And it's a moving average undercut and rally at the 10-day and the 20-day. So there you go. Nucor, a little shakeout at the 50-day line yesterday. Are the steels going to try and turn here where the strength is not so obvious? Reliance certainly isn't. Southern Copper, another undercut and rally among the coppers here through this low at 88.15. That's here, and so you cruise through it here, and theoretically that's viable using that prior low as a selling guide. Steel Dynamics, not going anywhere there. So you can see some of the steel's not looking so hot. Tech Resources pulled off an undercut and rally today at this low, which is at 39.05, close at 40.02. So it's still in range, but I'd like to see how it acts, maybe pulling back towards that lower, say along the 10-day line. But still, you're seeing some relative strength here in the coppers, and that's one commodity area that I think has potential to move in a commodity rally, a general commodity rally. So that's what I'm looking at. You can see, though, right off the bat, the precious metals names are acting just fine. And in most cases, they don't even act like you're in a market correction. They're just hanging out, building bases, some of them moving to higher highs, some of them posting century mark long entries like Agnico. And so very interesting. That's the area I'm focused on the long side until further notice. That could change depending on what I see in terms of setups in the coming days, or maybe this whole market just rolls over and blows up. Who knows? All I know is what I see right now, and that's what I see right now. Anyways, that's it for now. Enjoy.